Hello there, my name is Eddie Daniels, and I am joined on the phone by our good friend Eli. Eli, I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us. Of course, Eli, now like many people in the Christian music industry, based out of Nashville, but originally from Santa Monica, California.
I am.
Now, how much time did you spend in California? Did you pretty much grow up there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
No.
Really?
I was born and raised there. So, I was born in Santa Monica, but I lived in different places, like Buena Park, place Stanton, and a little place called Crow Village, and it was just gangland, man. I wasn't because I'm a lover, not a fighter.
So you were neither a Crip nor a Blood.
No, I was a scared. I was definitely a scared. No, gangs were not my deal, man.
Did you ever find yourself like at night up against some guys maybe try to
Of course, dude.
Really?
I had they used to beat me up just for being white. I was like one of the only white kids in the whole neighborhood, so I'd get beat up for any number of things, and then I learned to just kind of blend in and look Hispanic, and guys would speak Spanish to me, and I just kind of nod my head, like I knew what the heck they were saying. And there was a guy one time in second grade, there was a sniper shooting at the school. That was exciting. You grow up with that, it's like you don't miss it.
Well, a little bit of that Hispanic influence definitely comes through on the hidden track on your Now the News album, a song, I'm not sure what it's called, about Tacho, the legend of Tacho the Liar. Tell us a little bit about that song.
It's a true story, and it takes place in California, though.
I love that song, though, dude. That's very cool.
Thank you. Some people are like, oh, you're going to offend Hispanic people. I'm like, why? I love the Hispanic people. They're more of my family than anybody else. I grew up in total Hispanic neighborhoods and in Vietnamese neighborhoods. It's like, it's not politically correct, I guess, but, that's whatever. If it would have been a British accent, nobody would have cared. So it's like, whatever.
Well, as a Hispanic person, I think it's hilarious.
Well, thank you. I thought all my friends think it's hysterical. They love it. And I'm like, what's the big deal? I'm like, and my whole thing is, too, if you can listen to that whole album, and if you don't get it by that time, then you're not gonna. It's like, whatever. It's like, so it's cool, and I'm glad to hear you say it, because I thought it was a lot of fun, man.
It sounds like it was.
Oh, totally. Listen, I have a good time. when it's serious, when it's funny, no matter what, it doesn't have to be somber to be Christian. And it also doesn't have, it could be whatever. So that's the cool thing about this album. It's got, if you've never seen me in concert before, I think this is the best representation overall as an album of what it's like, It's this, it's that, it goes all over the place.
Did you always know you were going to be into music?
Oh, no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I really I was 20 years old. I'd been a Christian for about almost 3 years, maybe. And it was really quite a miraculous thing. I fell in love with worship, but worship wasn't really popular back then, and musicians really didn't want to do worship, especially in California. They kind of wanted to be rock stars for Jesus, And I'm
right.
and I didn't get that because I didn't play an instrument. Nobody in my family sings or plays an instrument. I was a gardener, a high school dropout, ex-drug addict, So it's like my life was just like, God, what are you going to do with someone like me, And a lady at church, she just was like, hey, you know what? You should play guitar and sing. And I just was like, what the heck are you talking about? That was just like so left field. And a couple months later, I think during that time I had picked up a guitar once and kind of looked at it and I thought, man, there's no way. There's just no way,
Right.
And a couple months later, I'm at her house and she's like, you know what? Here. And she pulls out a guitar. She's like, I'm going to let you borrow this. You need to take this home. And I thought, man, this is crazy. I thought, what the heck? If God, you can make the earth, but you can't make me play a guitar, so what the heck?
Right.
So I went home and I thought, well, Lord, listen, I love to worship you and I love to sing to you, but I in no way, shape, or form have a good voice or anything. I just don't, and that's okay. I was like, okay, will you let me do this? And that night, somehow, dude, it was just like this epiphany. It was just this incredible revelation of how I could teach myself how to play. I think it was Come Let Us Worship and Bow Down, and I was freaking, man, and it was horrible, and people were just like, ugh, and for me, it was just like, dude, the thought that I could sit by myself and make music was just the coolest thing in the world. I didn't care if I ever sang in front of anybody or not. I still don't, it was like, that was great and all, but I think it was from that and my attitude of divine appointments. Like, you know, God, just whenever you need me, I'll go, and no matter how humiliating or whatever the situation might be. Although I still moan and complain when it's humiliating, because I'm fully flesh, But and it just turned out to where one thing led to another, and here we are. I mean, it's totally bizarre. It took me like at least 5 years. So that would happen when I was 20. I just turned 30. But it was only up until about 5 years ago that I felt comfortable enough to say, yeah, this is a calling. It's like, you know what, dude? You're going to get up on stage and say you represent Jesus. That's pretty heavy stuff, man. And not only that, but if I'm not called to this, I'm just getting in the way of somebody else who is. And then it's funny because now, the more I'm into it, the more I realize I have to try and keep myself very segregated to make sure that I don't start loving this, like I don't know if I could give this up,
Right.
I could definitely give it up tomorrow, and say that I had more fun than anybody was ever allowed to, especially with the stuff that's gone on in my life. But I think it's a good marriage because I'm completely aware of who owns it, and I'm just glad to borrow it. Except for, like I say, let me just be honest, sometimes right around sound check for me is like the worst time. I'm tense. I want to get in, make sure it's fine. The people don't sometimes pay attention to what you've asked them for in the beginning, and that gets like day after day after day after day, year after year. That gets irritating. So you have to try and just come with an attitude of like, no matter what happens, I am going to bless these people, Sometimes you show up and it's like, you're like, okay, Lord, I have a really bad attitude, God, please help me. But most of the time, He's able to remind me to be very grateful.
Right.
That's cool.
When you write a song, does it just come to you, or do you have to be in a certain atmosphere? Like, I have to be at home in this chair with the lights off, or can it come anytime? How do you write a song?
It's seasonal.
Yeah.
Like, I have songwriting seasons, and it's definitely like if I know somebody's even in the same house as me, I probably won't write a song. I don't like to be interrupted at all. I become extremely upset. Like, it's such an exposed thing for me, because I'm not technically minded. It's pure emotion, and so it's like standing naked in front of a coliseum full of people, and I'm trying to say, God, please lead me through this, and Lord, what would you want to say, and what am I feeling, what do I want to say, and it has to move me. So all that going on, I don't want somebody walking in going, oh, that sounds good, it's like pretend like I'm not. I want to be invisible while I'm writing. I don't want, and I've bitten a few people's heads off, because it's just like one of those things where it usually comes out of my devotional time with the Lord. It's a very personal thing, and it's hope. I feel, I need to feel that it's inspired. Otherwise, I don't necessarily want to do it. So yeah, I mean, at certain places, there's probably one person in the world that can be and has been in a room with me while I've written a song, and that person's like the only person who would ever. And even sometimes I'm mean to her. That's just how it is.
Well, Eli, if she was in the room while you were writing anything from your album Now the News, then you need to invite her back, because this album is really phenomenal. And just from talking to you and reading some articles I read about you, you seem very, I hate to use the word proud, but you just seem very happy with the way the album turned out.
This is the best album ever. I've never said that before. I'm completely confident in its content, and its musicality, and its production. The art department at the label, everybody's done a stellar job, and I'm proud of it. I think it's an incredible body of work that will still be relevant in 5 years. And to me, everybody's got a different goal. Mine is I want to be an artist whose CD you don't really ever find in a secondhand bin. I'm constantly having to tell people their third and fourth copy because their friends, their non-saved and their saved friends keep stealing them from them because they say something, they feed them. I would rather sell 10 albums that way than 100,000 that just end up in a used bin somewhere. So for me, dude, I mean, what a pleasure. I go in, and for me, anytime I can find one used, I buy them because you know what? They're expensive. We've got a policy that we've had ever since day one, and that is If you can't afford the CD, you write me a letter. And if you take the time to write me a letter, I'll send you whatever you ask for free, no questions asked. That costs me some money. You know, it cost me like $7 a CD, and that comes out of my pocket. So the industry, everybody was at first like, dude, you know, you're just going to get ripped off blind. And it was just another opportunity for me to show them, guys, you know, there is good business, but there's also faith. And the Bible says the just shall live by faith. And if we think that we're going to plan everything, market it out, and say, okay, God, you know, here's your facts, now just do everything that's on this plan and we're going to be fine, it's ludicrous. I enjoy the thrill of seeing people who can't afford a CD get one. And I enjoy a man or a woman sending me a check for, you know, obscene amounts of money, saying, here, this will buy CDs for people who can't afford them. And that's giving the body of Christ, once again, an opportunity to get involved and do something. Everybody wins, nobody loses. The only person who risks anything is me, and I'll take that up with God. You know, the person who says, man, okay, Eli seems to be putting his money where his mouth is, they take a risk, and you know, how do they know I'm not going to just go blow the money? Nobody knows if I really do have a car or not, you know. I mean, I could be driving a Mercedes-Benz for all anybody knows. And so that's cool that people trust me enough to know, listen, dude, you know, if you don't want to, I mean, if you don't want to support this ministry, don't, you know, good, you know, I mean, whatever, you know, I don't want your money, I don't want blood money, you know, do whatever God tells you to, but God has been incredibly good to me, and you know, when you've been homeless and some other things, you realize God is going to take care of you, and there's no man on earth here who can take care of me or destroy me. Only God. And that's a liberating, terrifying, wonderful thing. I think anybody who's known me for 10 minutes knows that, dude, you know, if I was looking for a Dove Award, I would have quit a long time ago. But what I am looking for is to be obedient. And it's like, you know what? I don't want everybody to be like me. Everybody's ministry is totally different. But I don't like anybody to be excluded because of fads or fashions. You know, there are artists out there that I would say, left up to me, I would have probably said, no way. But you know what, as I see the fruit of what they've been involved in, it's like, you know what, God, I'm glad I don't make those decisions, because you know what, they're reaching people, as weird as it may seem to be, to me, they're reaching people for Christ that I never would. And I hope that we can continue to have an appreciation for our musical heritage as Christians, you know, where, you know, I can listen to mainstream radio and I can still hear songs that were good 5-10 years ago in great rotation because they were great songs. You know, hey, I just want to hear good songs, man. Give me a song that's like still says something, and it may be a happy song, it may be a sad song, whatever, but like you're saying, you know, I just hope that radio and retail have been partners for me in ministry for a lot of years now. And that is, to me, it's been an incredible relationship because it's never been a schmooze one. It's just been one of like, listen, I really appreciate what you guys do. And if they appreciate what I do, I hope they will use it as a tool it's meant to be to say something to their audience. Because I think audiences are feeling a little bit over Britney Spearified, you know, the whole super glamour, great, plastic, and there's just people who are going, listen, dude, I just need someone to be real and to just some balance, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, as I say that, I'm thinking, what am I saying? You know, like, this sounds so stupid. It's just, I think all I'm saying is, I've got to hope and know that God will continue to do whatever His purpose is, because the mountain for me to climb in and of myself would be just completely overwhelming, impossible. You know, as I think back of what frustrates me, there's not one person I can think of that upsets me. It's a machine. The church, everything. It's just a machine that just beats people up sometimes. That's what bothers me, and it bothers everybody. So, you know, hopefully, you know, in my conversation with you, you know, I don't get the sense that you feel attacked at all. I'm not. I'm putting it out there, and let's talk about it without feeling like we need to find somebody to blame. You know, it's like, right. You want somebody to blame the devil, blame Adam and Eve, you know.
Right,
like, other than that, we got to get past that and find answers.
Your song, Now the News, I read that you wrote that the morning after the election?
No, they got that wrong. We recorded it the morning after.
Okay.
I wrote it like 6 months before, and it was just like totally a trip, because for me, it was like, okay, God, this is obviously perfect timing. But it was funny to see how many stations don't want to play. It's just been weird. And I'm not,
Really?
I don't know if you guys are playing it. I don't care. I don't want it. I'm not trying to bag anybody who's not. I'm just saying that for me, it's like, it's very, very interesting that people have been like, well, we don't want people to think we're being political or that. And I'm just thinking, well, what about just relevancy? Look, it doesn't need to be number one, but the people want it. You know, for me, when we're at the concerts and stuff, I'm writing songs. I'm about the people. I'm not trying to be the coolest, newest thing. But the fact is, you know what? My music is relevant. It's real. It's the secular press loved it. The frustrating thing, I think, is that non-believers understand and get the album and get what I do most of the time more than believers do. And that bothers me only because it's like, well, you know, what are we feeding the body of Christ that they don't get it? You know, it's like, geez, dude, this is supposed to be something that, you know, it's like I'm having to get the Christians saved, you know, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but it's just like, you know, people who are afraid that I might say the word fart. You got to loosen up and relax. It's just like the Pharisees. You're worried about a gnat, and yet you're swallowing a camel. You know, you're worried about if I say fart, and yet, you know, you can care. You'll totally isolate. You know, you're totally bigoted, or you totally don't want anybody who's gay to ever come through your church doors. It's like, it's totally bizarre. It's like we're worrying about the wrong thing. Totally strange. You know, I mean, my priorities are messed up all the time too, but it's like, come on, guys. You know, so for me, it's like, if this album bombs, great. You know, I just feel like I know that I've been obedient to the Lord, and I'm sure the disciples must have felt like you know, a bunch of losers at times. You know, I was just talking about that with someone today about, you know, in Isaiah they were talking about, you know, that Jesus would be a man with many troubles. It was, I forgot the exact verbiage, but it's in chapter 49. It was awesome. It's just like, you know what? I totally know that Jesus relates to me. I know that he understands what it's like to be on earth, you know? And I look at his ministry and I think, man, dude, if Jesus was physically walking the earth right now, and this was his time, I mean, I don't think half of us would recognize him either. I mean, I think I would be like, dude, listen, you know, you're never going to get a record deal. Your songs stink. And, you know, I'd probably be like, dude, you stink, you know? And I'd be like, you'll never get a Christian record deal. And that makes people mad, but it's like, you know what? None of us are above of the hypocrisy of it all. You know, I am. I'm a total hypocrite. And that's what frustrates me.
Now the news here in America.
That right there, a song called Beggars from Eli's CD, Now the News. And Eli, that's just an example of why I like your music and your writing so much, is that you don't put on airs the fact that, you know, Christians are better than other people. You just pretty much face the fact that every one of us has a beautifully ugly story, and we all are messed up, and no one is really better than anyone else. I just really like the approach that you take, that we all need Christ.
I think that's what's been the jewel in our crown as a ministry, and that is to be able to get up in front of people and to remind them that, you know, and not talk about it, because that's one thing my manager, she really laid into me a couple years ago. She's just like, you know, just shut up and do it. She goes, I'm so sick of hearing you talk about it. And I was just like, man, you're right. I'm trying to just be someone who just does it. But to get up on a stage and to take the low position, to talk and actually interact with the audience, and to wash their feet, you know, what we're supposed to do. I think it's what Christian music is meant to be, and that is the difference is when you come to a Christian concert, you should receive. And my job is to work and to serve, not to be a rock star. And that seems to come across, and I think one of the best ways is to get up in front of people, let your songs be very vulnerable and naked and real life, something you can apply to your life. A lot of Christian music I hear, I have no point of reference for it. It just seems like, you know, I know God is wondrous and marvelous, but my life isn't all the time, and I don't need an escape from it. I need peace in it, and so it's a lot of lyrical things where it's kind of like, you know, everything's fine, nobody farts, and I'm just like, I just don't relate to it, and I don't think a lot of people do. And I think the cool thing about what we're doing is that God's used, my little saying is, in life it takes a lot of manure to grow a beautiful rose bush. And God is able to take the stinkiest, smelliest things. We don't need to be ashamed of them. We don't need to be, I mean, nobody's proud of their shortcomings or the things that happen to them. But if we're able to say, Lord, you're the master gardener, you can take this manure and make it into something beautiful and fragrant, then, I mean, that's the gospel. That's our hope. And so let's be honest about it, and people relate, and people get fed, and they get encouraged, and they come to know the Lord, or they come through a struggle. And to me, there's no better testimony of Jesus Christ than His ability to, in the muck and in the mire here, to give us peace everlasting and joy and excitement for what's around the corner. And so, I think it just sometimes it blows people away. I think they expect me to be acting like a celebrity or something, and then when it's the concert's just me and a guitar and no effects, no special lighting. It's just a big living room, I guess. My hope is to continue to rally the believers into action, to remembering that being a Christian isn't what you say; it's what you do as well. And I don't at all believe that we work our way to heaven. But at the same time, the Bible says faith without works is dead. And I'd like to see the Christian community continue to be more involved and more concerned about outreach than they are about the color of the carpeting in their churches. It just doesn't matter, and when you're traveling overseas and you're here in the States and you're in not just LA, but when you're in mission and rescue centers and homeless shelters nationwide in every neighborhood, you think to yourself, gee, we've got these great $1 million churches, but what are we doing with this money? Are we doing what God would call us to do, or are we just making a subculture of our own, which just mirrors the world, and therefore it becomes more and more ineffective? I don't think we should ever. I mean, Christians should be the most relevant people. We should be on the edge, but instead of 5 years behind the times, because we're afraid of everything.
The impression and almost the tone that I get from your new album is you don't sound upset or you don't sound angry, but it's almost kind of like an urgency maybe, or just a really desperate plea to please understand that this is what's going on around you.
Thank you so much. And I didn't, I'm not angry. I don't want to make an angry album. I think it just discredits the artist immediately because people feel like, well, they're just mad. And it's like, man, I'm not mad. I'm happy. There's some songs on that album that are just flat out make me smile every time. And yeah, and hopefully it's going to be a bounce, because the fact is I'm not saying we should go burn our books and our newspapers and our televisions and live in caves, but at the same time, we're being led around by our noses instead of the Word of God, and there is a balance. Everything that we eat, drink, breathe, sleep on, wear, see, influences us some way. What are we investing our lives in? And it's a good question to always ask. I was in Denmark. This one, it was just a regular newspaper, and she's like, so do you think you're above all this? And I'm like, it's the contrary. I'm guilty of all of it. That's how I know. I'm guilty of every one of those things on the album. Never once have I written a song that wasn't from first-hand perspective. And it doesn't change on this one. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm saying, it always starts with me. But at the same time, the truth is the truth. And whether I'm able to live up to it all the time is totally irrelevant. Christ is still Lord. I fail. He doesn't. These are truths. And it is time for, I know that right now we've got more young people on the mission field than ever before. But at the same time, we're kind of doing what I call missionary trick-or-treating. We go to Croatia, we bring some aspirin, and we help rebuild a couple things. We pat the kids on the head, give them a doll, tell them Jesus loves them. And then we pat ourselves on the back all the way home and say, okay, next year, let's go to Africa. And it's like, well, you know what? What about the people in Croatia? It's like they're just a stop-off for us, but those people are still suffering. They still need us to be committed. And commitment and servanthood are two very unglamorous, long-suffering, and difficult things to do. Yet they're the two things that Jesus said we have to do. And above fashion and trends or this or that, he says to us, hey, you know, here I am, I'm your Lord and Savior, and I've just washed all your feet, even Judas's, and I'm telling you, go do this. And then he said, a new commandment I give you, love each other. Well, you know, then we need to love one another. And we need to love each other with, not with just with our words, like you know, it says in the New Testament, in James, I think, you know, you see a brother who's starving and hungry, you don't just say, well, bless you, brother, I hope you do well. Go get him some clothes, get him food, you know. So for us, it's you know, the challenge of, okay, how do we follow through? We spent, you know, I was just involved in a missions trip last year to Croatia. $55,000 went into this missions trip. And yes, some lives were changed, and it was cool. But man, you know what? Those people in Vukovar are still starving and have no place to live. Wouldn't it have been better for us to just say, you know what? I don't need to go. I don't need to. I can trust these people. You know, let's instead build a building, a whole building for the homeless teenagers in Vukovar instead. Let's send the money instead. You know, there's sometimes where you need to go, but there's sometimes when you need to send the money. Sometimes when you need to do both. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things where we need to just stay on it and keep being challenged in what we're doing. But, you know, the thing I'm finding hardest in my life is still, how do I continue to do it and not just talk about it? There's so many times I'd rather just blow it off. And that's just the thing. I mean, you know, I feel that way. I'm not all righteous and holy. But at the same time, you know, I've got a tattoo on my arm which is from Proverbs 21:13, and it says, he who hears the cry of the poor and does not answer will cry himself and not be heard. Now, let me tell you, doing this and having this kind of a heart is not, people are always like, man, you know, they respect me and that's cool. But, dude, it's not going to win me any awards. It's not going to get me great album sales. It's not going to do it. I mean, I purposely shoot myself in the foot as an artist every day. But at the same time, you know, is God concerned about me feeling totally appreciated and all this, or is he concerned about what he's concerned about, you know? So we all have struggles in this. Mine is, my biggest struggle is, dude, every day I have to make a conscious decision to be crucified with Christ. And every day I have to make a choice between what my hopes and dreams would be and what God's are. And to say that is easy would be a complete and absolute lie. Because, dude, I'm an artist now. You know, I didn't start out that way, but I am. And you know what? I want to be famous. There are parts of me that want to be well known. That's my pride, dude. That's just me. But you know what? I am so blessed and confirmed in what I see that I guess my biggest disappointment is, after everything that I've seen and experienced, I feel like, man, how could I even feel that way at all? It makes me hurt so much inside. I just feel like, dude, you're such a disappointment, you know? And that's just my struggle. I mean, I have ups and downs, but it's like, you know, so no, I mean, this is not a self-righteous album. This is a real cool album. I love it. All our reviews have been incredible, but I don't know if this is an album that, I don't know. I mean, it's a challenge to radio as well. You know, one of the radio guys who was with me in Croatia was like, you know, why don't you write a song about this? And my point to him was, and no offense, but you won't play it. You're not going to play a song that says get off your rear end and do something. That's not what's cool. What's cool is just like everything's cool, but don't just come right out and say it, because, you know, we don't want to hear that. We'll wait till you're dead and appreciate it. But right now, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with like Rich Mullins. Dude, I still don't own a Rich Mullins CD, but I tell you what, I never heard that guy's music except for, like, I heard Awesome God. I think, you know, anybody's heard Awesome God. But all of a sudden the dude dies and everybody's his best friend, and now he's on the radio, and I'm thinking, you know, the next song I'm going to write is called, you know, Now You're Famous. What happened there, you know? So it is a challenge as well to radio to say, you know what, do what's the right thing to do, and challenge your listeners. You know, we've had some people say, well, we don't want to offend anybody, and my point is if you're offended by this album, then you need to be, and anybody else won't be, because it's the truth. So that's the point. You know, the gospel is going to be a stumbling block to some people. Truth is going to make people uncomfortable at times. That's okay, you know.
And as she wiped his feet,
This is Rick Lee Thompson.
Hi, Rick. This is Eddie from WJTL calling.
Yes, sir.
Is Eli in?
Who?
Eli?
Eli?
Yes, I was given a number this number for
Are you that guy who keeps calling about the subscription?
the subscription. No.
American Life?
No, this is a radio interview.
Is it going on right now?
No, it's being recorded.
Right now?
Uh-huh.
Can I be famous?
Can you be famous? I think you are famous. I'll make you famous.
What's up, dude?
How's it going, dude?